This is Bennett Environmental Associates. Now, I know you've heard the owner, Dave Bennett, talk before. He was on last year talking about water quality in Brewster and our protection processes. So follow me inside and we'll learn a little bit more about Bennett Environmental Associates Incorporated and what they do and how they do it.
Well, I'm sitting in the office here with a couple of associates from Bennett Environmental Associates, and this is Kara Risk and Todd Everson. And they've agreed to welcome, first of all, thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you for agreeing to the interview. Why don't you tell us what it is that you do for Bennett, Kara?
Sure. I'm the business manager, so I oversee finance, administration, human resources, and marketing and sales.
That's quite a lot.
It is quite a lot. It keeps me busy.
But it's a small business, and this isn't unusual. We all do multiple tasks in small businesses.
Yeah.
What about you, Todd?
I would say I serve in operations, sort of as an operations lead. My focus of work is waste site cleanup and water supply, but I have a hand in other things, taking care of equipment and services in general.
Right. Again, multitasking.
That's the name of the game.
Can't have one thing that you have to do. You got to do a little bit more than that. Now, when someone sees the name Bennett Environmental Associates, or I know the first time I read it, I was like, I'm not really sure what it is that you guys do. What does environmental services mean?
Well, I would say, like many of the firms in the area, we do engineering services, which includes septic inspections and design and wetland delineation and site layout for development. But what separates us from that is the degree of licensing that we have in the environmental field, which include wastewater treatment operation and maintenance, public water supply, which Todd is lead on. And also David has licensing as an LSP, which is a licensed site professional. So we do cleanup for oil or hazardous materials on properties, and that's kind of our niche in the area because there aren't a lot of companies that do that work.
Right.
So that separates us from your average engineering firm on the Cape.
Right. So it is very specific. And you're the public water side of this. What does that mean?
So anytime there's drinking water involved, serving a certain number of people for a certain number of days per year, it's considered a public water supply and you're providing water to the public. As a result of that, you need to have an operator oversee and run your water supply essentially, which means everything from water meter readings and usage to sampling to making recommendations for treatment to operating treatment.
Oh, that's interesting. What kind of background do you have to be able to do all that?
I studied geology in college, but really my training began when I started working for David Bennett. And a lot of it was just on-the-job training. You learn as you go. I think many jobs are like that.
Yeah. You
don't really learn the ins and outs and the guts of the job until you start doing it.
Right.
So
that's interesting. So you're what's the outfit that you're most likely to be seen wearing when you're out in the field?
Jeans, boots, steel tube boots, and depending on the season, a t-shirt or a sweatshirt.
Right. Yeah. So it's kind of like a casual kind of look. I
guess, yeah. You got to be prepared to get dirty, so you don't want to wear anything too nice.
And maybe wet in your case.
Absolutely.
So what kind of background do you have, Kara?
My degree is in environmental design. And so when I graduated from college, I had no idea what I wanted to do except that I wanted to be in the environmental field. And I wanted to be on Cape Cod, which is where I spent my summers. So I was lucky enough to get a job answering phones here. And that's how I started. And then I moved into, under Dave, I started taking classes at 4Cs to improve my environmental education. Started working in the field like Todd said. That's where I've learned everything. So went out in the field as an environmental scientist, started running operations for a little while, and then became the business manager because I got cold outside and I didn't want to be out there.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but the nice thing about that was that I've done everything in the business practically, so that I have a good understanding of what's required in different situations, and I can assist in those areas when needed. Even now, even though I'm the business manager, I can do other things as well. So.
Which I think is good. Again, we're talking about a small business, and if you've got a whole group of people who all have a pretty good idea of what the others are doing, it's going to be work as a team instead of working in silos, as they say.
Yeah, there's no single role anyone has. You got to be prepared to assist
in.
on any part of the job.
I think that's neat. How many employees are there altogether in the firm?
We have 8 full-time employees.
And some part-time?
We have contractors that come in for
Okay.
billing, things like that, but we have 8 employees under Bennett Environmental.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Typical micro business on Cape Cod, which is really wonderful when you stop and think about it. So it occurred to me that this is a nice fit for Cape Cod because we are so concerned about water quality and protecting our water sources here. And I could see where someone might want to look at this as a career track. So your geology and your environmental design, are those the kinds of degrees that a young person, say, who might be interested in this would be a good idea to pursue?
I would say absolutely. Certainly civil and environmental engineering is always a good pathway, I think. You get exposure to a lot of things. And then, you know, if you don't end up pursuing a license as an engineer, you've got a background in that kind of work already if you wish to continue, you know, in that field. So
That's a good point.
And also, like you had said before, if you have that basis in environmental or engineering field, if you're a good fit with us, we could bring you in, and the training that you get, the practical experience that you get here under supervised management out in the field,
Right.
it's you can't replicate that in a classroom. So we do
That's
send
true.
people out for training. We always encourage people to go to 4Cs, take classes, take field classes. But the practical experience that you gain from just doing the work is
It's the best, isn't
yeah,
it?
absolutely.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. So I'm going to ask you the questions I ask everybody who's a spotlight business. Todd, what do you like most about your work?
I would say getting out in the field. You know, that has its downsides too. When
Sure.
you know, earlier today I was shoveling dirt from one spot to another. You know, nothing technical about that, so that's not so great. But generally, getting out in the field and actually completing work. You know, it's one thing to design or talk about it or write reports about it in the office, but when you're actually out in the field doing it, I don't know, I get a greater sense of accomplishment and a great sense of satisfaction.
I can appreciate that.
And battling the elements is part of that, you know.
Right.
It's no fun to be cold or wet, but when you get the job done, you come back and now you're warm, and you look back at the day that you conquered despite the obstacles, yeah, it gives you a sense of pride,
That's a
for
good
sure.
way to put it.
Yeah.
Now, but what do you like least?
I would say, not that the office is terrible, but if I have to spend a week's worth of time in the office, then that's when it gets to be too much. When the computer is my best friend, that's the part I like least, I would say.
Okay. Carol, what about you? What do you like most about your work?
I would say the computer is my best friend. I really enjoy sitting in my little spot and doing my work, and I enjoy, paper pushing, as they say.
Yeah.
Those kind of things really are fun for me. Recently I've been focusing a lot on marketing, so I'm actually getting out of the office more and doing more business to business and networking events, and that's been really fun for me to get out and meet my clients that I've spoken to on the phone a million times and haven't met, getting to understand what their needs are, how we can further service them,
Right.
and meeting future clients. So that's really been fun for me
The
recently.
people part of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So what do you like least?
Least, well, in the past it was the elements that Todd spoke of.
Yeah.
I did that for a while, and I really became thin blood, I think, over the years, and I do not like that anymore. So I'm happy in my office, and I'm happy going out and meeting people, but that's where I want to be. I'm not interested in being in the field anymore.
So that's why you guys make a good team.
Yeah.
Working together. He can handle the field work and you can take care of the computer work
That's
that he
right.
doesn't want to do.
Exactly.
I love it. That's terrific. Well, I want to thank both of you for taking time to do this. It's always fun to meet the people behind the sign, if you will, on the road, and to learn a little bit more about what you guys do. So, Kara, thank you very much.
Thank you for
Todd,
having us.
thank you very
Thanks
much.
a lot. I appreciate it.
And thank you all for watching, and tune in again next month for more of the Best of Brewster.